And five,
All
four,
right.
3, 2, 1. Hello, gang, and welcome back to the Doc and Buddy Show for our Halloween extravaganza. I will let you guess which is Doc and which is Buddy. You probably have no idea which is which at this point with our costumes. And Pirate, how are you today?
I'm good. Buddy, I just want to wish you a happy Halloween.
Thank you so much.
All of our listeners tonight, if you're still listening today on Halloween, and I want to introduce you to my little...
Wow. Was that Janet Reno?
Yes, that's actually it's very good. How did you get that?
That's the Janet Reno doll.
That's the Janet Reno doll. It's very scary, just like the UFOs and ETs. They're very evil, and they're.
You bring up a great point. Halloween is a great time to realize that you should not judge others by their appearance. They may look like monsters or evil demons, just like ETs, but you should not judge them by their appearance because they could be innocent, sweet kids who just want candy.
That's right. That's right. And talking about candy, I hope you like Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, no.
We have about 500 of them plus more reserved in case we run out. We get so many kids here. Westchester, New York. It's just I have to say, I'm not boasting. This is not ego. We're the best Halloween house around. We spend hours and hours and do our shopping during the clearance sales for next year, and we are prepared for one serious Halloween for all little kids.
I'm sure the mad scientist, the mad doctor comes out.
Yes, welcome to my multiverse.
Now, is your Halloween decorations bigger than your holiday Christmas, Hanukkah?
Oh, yes. It just goes on, and we add new props in every year. We haven't quite got the fog machine yet, but we have the strobe lights, the black lights, the cobwebs that light up in the black light, and the creatures that are the displays that are sound sensitive. As the kids go down the walkway, they start off.
Beautiful.
And you get so many kids. I mean, it is a real job to keep it all going for a couple hours because they come in groups of 5 to 10. And as you were asking before, you get teenagers now, and you can kind of kid around with them a little more. We once made it too scary, and we had to tone it back because you get little infants too. I mean, just kids 5, 4, and you don't want them to be really terrified. It's supposed to be fun. So,
I was about to say, how gratifying is it as an adult to scare the crap out of little kids? But,
I used to be a little kid in this neighborhood here near White Plains, New York, and this is my mom still here. And I remember the really, now that's getting creepy there. And you could be like, I was saying to you, buddy, you could be going into the next dimension and abducting the Greys and extracting whatever they have in there.
What do you think I do for a living?
I see. I get it. See, we always knew that you worked for someone this whole time. And I thought it was the Draconians, but now I'm thinking it's someone else.
No, it's the Nazi reptilian chupacabras who live under Antarctica and use chemtrails to activate HAARP to make Nicki Minaj have Emery Smith's love child.
Yes, are you channeling right now?
I am. Oh boy! Wow. Okay, now I can see a little better.
Yes. So anyway, welcome to everyone. And as I was just saying, this used to be a great Halloween neighborhood. When I was a kid, we want to do the same thing for the next generation of kids. Otherwise, it'll stop, and we can't allow that. We have to keep the mystery and the curiosity going.
Yes, and Halloween is one of those holidays that really has that special part of becoming youth. And if there aren't good neighbors keeping the tradition alive, then you're denying kids that special part of childhood.
Yeah, the one night out of the year where you can let your imagination go and kids take over for a night. It's the way it should be, right?
And it's interesting too because it's also a night about confronting false fears.
Yes.
That's a lot about ufology too. There's a lot of false fears because things look a certain way or sound or can scare you a certain way. It's a technology that you're not familiar with. So thus you can, call it something, you know, evil or a threat or something to put up your dukes against it because you have a fear. And, you know, with this ETI, non-human intelligence thing, it's very easy to cast it almost in a racist kind of way where you're judging someone else by their appearance and even their ability. It's really also their ability, not just how they look, you know. Just because someone is stronger than you doesn't mean that they're evil, you know. I don't know. Do you see any other correlations, or do you see that? You think that's an accurate correlation to make?
Well, I would have to say ever since I saw my first UFO as a child with my mom in the Everglades, I knew they were bad boys because, you know, it just looked different. It didn't look like anything else flying around, and therefore it had to be bad because it was different.
Sure.
I mean, anything different from us has to be bad and scary.
Sure.
And I knew that they were just evil, and my goal in life was to wipe them out.
Well, you know, the fastest way to find out if they're evil or not is to kill them and to cut them open.
Let's find out. Yes,
all the parts.
Well, let's find out what color blood they have. Yeah, no, buddy, I have to agree with this. I think 98% of what I hear about this topic is pure projection of our own fears of otherness, of the unknown. And I didn't invent this. I have to thank Stephen Greer for pointing this out to us in his early lectures, you know. And who's coming?
What the?
It's them. It's
Who's that? Who is that? What the? I have never.
This is, I don't. Who? They're here. We were just talking about how scary they are.
This really is a spooky Halloween. There's an animal behind that person too.
This is our spooky dog Pretzel.
Oh, Pretzel!
Say hi to the audience, Pretzel. Pretzel is
Pretzel. Oh my God! I got one too. Pretzel. Meat sausages.
Hey, you see?
That's sausage.
I told you folks this was going to be a Halloween special, and
which one is Buddy and which one is sausages?
We dress Pretzel up in a very elaborate light, remote-controlled light set, and she can strobe, and the LEDs can change direction, and the kids absolutely go crazy. Pretzel is the star of Halloween out there. We put her on the lawn, and she's glowing. Bye-bye, spooky ghost.
Bye, spooky ghost. Pretzel, that's you torturing that poor animal. You know, it's interesting, too. I'm sorry to constantly make correlations to ETs, but when people wonder if you can have a relationship with a totally different other species that's intimate and caring and compassionate and shows intelligence both ways and is beneficial and symbiotic, I don't know if humans are able to do that. Are we? I don't know.
It's a good example. We have this symbiotic relationship with pets and many other animals. Goats have been around people for almost as long as dogs. If you ever are around goats, they really like people, and well, until they hit you, butt you. But mostly they get along very well with people because we've been around each other. We must have been around these extraterrestrials or the visitors for quite a long time, and I think we do not know. I just want to emphasize this again. We don't know what's going on. And people use that to inject their own propaganda and their own agendas into this. And governments always want us to be afraid because that's how they make their money. So without fear, a lot of industries stop on our planet. Let's be honest. There's a lot of fear industries. News, weapons, legal systems. And I'm not saying there aren't things that we need to take precautions against. No. But we know that once you have these systems in place, it's not just our government. Just stop picking on the U.S. government. It's any government.
Yeah, so true. It's very true.
They're all the same. It's not just our system here and conspiracy. This is what power systems do. They need people to be afraid to feed the machine.
Yeah.
And ETs are a nice scapegoat to blame for all of this. And as I was saying to you before our ghost walk in, 98% of this is pure bullshit. I'm convinced of it by now. It's just people are making this up. There's no evidence. They just like this. They like to go on the UFO speaking circuit, scare the audience. Buddy, I've been told this when I lectured at UFO conferences that my stuff wasn't really scary enough. And
Unbelievable.
they said we would lose the troops if we didn't keep the drama going. And I'm really kind of more of a scientist, so I want to stick with the data. And I'm okay with whatever the truth turns out to be, but I don't want to invent it just to fill the seats to make money for some conference organization, and I won't do it. I won't do it.
You're making a really important distinction between UFO research and UFO entertainment. You know, lately it's been meshed together far too much, and people who know in their hearts that they're lying and telling these incredible stories that are intended to be a serial story, intended to be episodic.
That's right. That's a very good point. Very good point.
And these entertainers are really damaging this crucial research at a crucial time, the most important topic at the most important time. They couldn't be making not only us valid researchers and experiencers look stupider, but they also prevent so many skeptical people from broaching the subject because they've stamped it with the nutty stamp. You know, the giant blue chickens, spheres. This weekend, a pod landed in my improbably tiny backyard. And, you know, I was 20 and backed. And, you know, I fought as a badass soldier, even though I'm a scrawny, nebbish, you know, person. I mean, these stories, you know, it's great lately. A lot of the people in the UFO, you know, world have been calling out people. They've been calling out Corey Good lately over that trademark issue. Did you hear about that?
I heard briefly a little bit about it. It sounded ridiculous.
Completely ridiculous.
Nobody owns this, and nobody knows what's going on. I think the only researchers I trust are people, basically, I trust you. I don't know okay, I like Colin Andrews. Colin's been good.
Grant Cameron. I like Grant a lot.
Yeah, no, Grant. No, look, they're good researchers out there, but it's so easy to pretend like you know what you're doing. And I want to admit to everyone, I don't understand what this phenomena is after 20 years. I really don't understand what's going on. And if I have real good data, I will share it with you instantly. But I'm the first to admit it is a very strange phenomena, and I think we should all step back and just admit there are so many unknowns here. So let's not fill in the blanks prematurely because we're ruining the possibility to have a nice relationship here, like you have with your dogs, we have with our dogs. And it could become something really amazing. But if you inject a lot of fear in there, I mean, that's not going to do any good. Now, if there is reason to be afraid or cautious, I mean, I'm open to that, but I really need evidence first because it's way too easy to, you know, judge before you have the facts. This is why we have jury trials.
Yeah.
You need to have the evidence. It has to be laid out. You need to hear both sides. And you need a process that served us well for about 1,000 years, and I don't think we should just get rid of it because people want to start making money off of this topic and whatever they're doing with it. It's a big unknown, and we have a little bit of evidence. Just talking about evidence, buddy, can you fill us in on this? What's been going on in Italy with the TTSA? You were telling me, I've been out of the loop for a couple of weeks. So why don't you fill us in what's been going on and what's your take on it?
Absolutely. I wrote down some notes somewhere. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to demask for a moment. Whoa.
Okay. Wow. Oh, there he is. Oh, my God. Scary.
Scarier. Somewhere I have some notes, but basically Tom DeLonge spoke first. And Tom spoke a little bit about his book and about some of that stuff. And whoa. And, it was kind of lackluster, the Tom portion. The production value on the whole day seemed really weird. They were having technical issues, I guess, just because it was Italy and everything. Oh, I have this little notebook. I can't find. Oh, I know exactly where it is. It's in my truck. But he touched upon some really interesting points. One point is he, of course, showed a slide that hasn't been seen before with 8 pieces of the metamaterial they got from the Atom Project.
Okay.
He also spoke about spoke about psychotronics, which is something he had not really spoken about before.
Psychotronics?
Yes, and he said something to the effect of, gosh, I wish I had the little notebook, that this phenomena presents a paradigm shift in our understanding of the world, or understanding of reality, even. Mm-hmm. So that might hint at the parapsychological aspects of this phenomena. the psychokinetic aspects, all that stuff that we do and understand very well. And we understand the connection vaguely as much as one can in this ununderstandable topic. He also spoke about how there are repeat locations that continue to have experiences. And we know what some of those locations are. Malmstrom Air Force Base, the 24th of January this year, another incident happened. Harry Reid spoke about it in New York Magazine. And
has there been any follow-up on that? You mentioned it before. Anything else that we know that confirms that it happened? Any witnesses?
Yes, witnesses have now come forward. You know, it was crickets. No one was talking about it. I've been, screaming and yelling as much as my tiny, scrawny ass can for months. And then if you do a Google search now, you'll see a couple other UFO places have now, researchers have picked it up for the first time, just this past week. And there's some more witness testimony. It's a giant black circle that flew over the base. There was a power outage. There's confirmation of multiple witnesses, military witnesses, and radar confirmation. It's also important to realize that Malmstrom isn't just a traditional base. It also has a whole bunch of launch facilities around it within like a 10-mile radius. There's a bunch of these underground missiles and the little control rooms for each one individually. So I'm doing a FOIA on it. I know others are doing FOIAs on it. I even called the base information officer, but at the time, I did. At the time earlier, a couple months ago, the date was unsure whether it was the 14th or the 24th. And I told him the 14th, and he came back the next day and told me nothing all month. So then Elizondo spoke a little bit about what ATIP was, their goals were, and how they helped to try and facilitate that. And then the other interesting thing he mentioned was that this phenomena is very involved in the water. That it's a transmedium phenomena. It can go from the vacuum of space through our atmosphere and seamlessly underwater. And he spoke several times, and he kind of dropped a hint that they have a real thing about nuclear and water. He put those two together and isolated just those two.
Yeah.
And that goes along with the stuff I've been saying, especially about the Tic Tac incidents, where almost every single major naval exercise has had UFO AAV interaction in the past 10, 15 years.
Wait. Hold on. Oh, did he say that?
No. He didn't say that. But
this is basically your research indicates this from talking to almost every major naval exercise. Almost
every major naval exercise in the past 15 years has had UFO incidents. And they have, and he said it himself, that they have tons of information. They garnered tons of information. He spoke about how in the 80s and 90s, the fidelity and quality and frequency of this evidence blossomed in the 80s and 90s because of the quality of the sensor equipment and the amount of new surveillance equipment that was in the atmosphere and in other places. And then hinted that in the 20s and more, the fidelity increased vastly, and that they are left with tons of evidence. He had mentioned
that's what Hal said. Hal said this publicly at the SSE IRMA conference, that it's increasingly difficult to hide the evidence because there's so much of it. Go on. Yeah.
No, that's exactly really it. They're concerned about foreign espionage because the amount is unmanageable. There are cases, and we've spoken about this. We have I don't even want to say how we have this information but we've been talking about this for 6 months. The West Coast, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic have had numerous incidents. In fact, there's repeating incidents happening in the southeastern Atlantic and also in that area of the Nimitz incident, southwest of Escondida. There could be who knows what going on there, but those are repeat natural locations.
Because it's interesting you're saying that, because I read an article that somebody sent me through one of our YouTube channels here. They said you should take a look at this, and it was an interview with Kevin Day.
Yes.
One with George Knapp, but he had written some fiction about these incidents, and he mentioned it was in proximity to mining operations, and
he's got a real focus on the mining operations.
Okay.
And also with Skinwalker, he tied a connection to that, to the mining operations of Skinwalker. There's a lot of different speculations on that, and I'm still doing research, so I don't really want to draw any conclusions about the mining stuff. But that was, I thought, very fascinating. And so that's essentially the rundown on the Italy stuff, the To the Stars. But I can't remember. There's one or two other little things, but nothing.
So what was the venue that they taught at these?
It was a small. I forgot. It was a small venue, and it was really custom people. I think it was people from the intelligence, from political spectrum, all over. It was really more movers and shakers, and not a general public event. And it kind of had that feeling too.
Is it publicly available? Is it on the TTSA website, or how did you see it? I
saw it on a link. Throughout the day, I tried to watch it. It's like 3 hours long. The first hour is like, the second hour is Tom DeLonge, and the last one is basically Lewis. The links keep getting taken down really quickly, so you might be able to find one. But
now, you did mention something before we started recording here, is that there was a lab, name of a lab shown.
Oh, yeah.
Relation to the meta. Is it the same one that I'm told was on the Hal Puthoff video when someone enlarged it?
Yeah, and in fact, I spoke about it. It's not only that it wasn't enlarged on the Hal Puthoff video, Hal mentioned the geography. He's like, well, for the really, I mean, he mentioned the geography of the lab. He said, when we have to do really intensive testing, we take it up to this city where this lab is. And so the next day after you and I spoke even, they edited that portion out. It's the same lab they were talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you said there were 8 metamaterial types shown from 8 different crafts? Yeah. Is that what we're...
Oh, I forgot that important piece of information. He said that within 4 months, there will be some revolutionary new information confirming Rendlesham. And
is that right?
Yes, and I think that is, from what I've heard, I haven't had double confirmation, but I got a pretty decent inside source who says that's a Rendlesham metal. One of the pieces was recovered from the forest where, it was supposedly dripping stuff.
Oh, the dripping metal. Now, that was on the third night, right? The third night dripping metal incident with the...
I'm not certain. It was with Hall.
Yeah, that was the third night because they said that they saw something that looked like an eye moving through the forest, because I've heard Paul talk about this at several conferences and interviews and so forth. And because the first night is just Burroughs and Peniston, right? And they are told to go out there. And the second night is Bonnie Templin, right? They send a security guard out by herself. And we're told that something comes through. The windows are down in the patrol car. Something comes through in front of her face into the car.
Wow. Never heard that.
A light. And when she was asked to go out the next night, she refused. Apparently even drew her weapon and said, I am not. Now, she has not given interviews, according to what we're told. I believe, I'm remembering Peter Robbins correctly on what he, told us about this. I'm not sure if it was at the Citizen hearing or another time that I ran into Peter, but she refused to go out. The third night is when allegedly 30 guys are out there in that field, and I might be wrong about this. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. They see the eye moving through the forest, and or was that later on the first night where they come back out again? And the dripping metal, there are different versions of this story depending on who you're talking about. At one point, the eye explodes and the metal drips down. Yeah, and this is the metal they have the samples of.
Apparently, yes. But also, too, Rendlesham before, even 5 years ago, Rendlesham was one of the very best cases because of everything. And so much information has come out lately. The radar stuff has come out saying that the radar tracks where there are radar officers. There's over 30 witnesses. And then the information about the fact that the craft was shooting a light into the bunker where the nuclear weapons were stored against the agreement we had with the UK at the time, secretly stored. So that was kind of enlightening and might be the actual reason why they were there. If you follow their track record and nuclear locations. So I think that's the big evidence that Luis Elizondo is going to reveal within 4 months. So we'll see about that.
You know, buddy, that is really huge because a lot of the debunkers have attempted to take aim at the Rendlesham incident, right? And incident, because it happened over a couple of nights. And unfortunately, there's a lot of acrimony between the witnesses now.
Sadly, yeah.
But it's such a good case because, as Gary Heseltine pointed out to us, he gave an extensive lecture on this at the night lectures at the Citizen hearing in 2013. He went through all the evidence, and he said, as a former, police investigator who looks for evidence, he goes, "Look how much evidence we have for this case." I'm just paraphrasing. He went through each case and what happened, and the indentations, the plaster casts that were made of the indentations, the estimates of the weight of the craft from the indentations, and he said, "This is all evidence that would be admissible in court."
You're right.
Because I know I'm a former police detective. This is what I did.
Wow.
He went, with the all sorts of examples of this, the halt recordings.
That recording is stunning. What's really stunning to me about it is that the part where I think it was the second night or the third night or whatever, it was the night where they're all together and he's recording it. A craft is flying in the sky, zips over them, then shoots a controlled beam down at their feet for a couple of seconds. You've got the highest military caliber witnesses possible here. Yeah. This case happened. And there's technology and indications of technology there that are mind-boggling. If a craft can break into 3 craft and buzz around and disappear into nothingness, I mean, we're talking about, even if it's an illusion, even if it's, this is incredible.
Buddy, are you sure it wasn't, they just weren't seeing the lighthouse?
That's right. They just saw a lighthouse at a distance and were mistaking a lighthouse.
They saw the lighthouse. This is what people have said. They showed that the blinking of the lighthouse kind of matched up with Halt's fear on the radio, on the recording. Look, he said, it's happening. And they blink. As Halt told us earlier this year at Open Minds, the Scottsdale conference, Alejandro's conference, that he said, we know what the lighthouse looked like. We saw it every night. This was not the lighthouse. It wasn't in the same direction. And the lighthouse has a big screen behind it to prevent the light from coming back in a large amount back towards land. It doesn't do any good coming back this way.
It's a wonderful way to undermine the case because when I first heard the case and I heard that explanation, I had to investigate it because it sounded so good. They had matched it to his speaking. Oh, there it is. There it is. And they matched it with video. But you can
very solid, very convincing, yes.
I think that actually could have been a intelligence disinformation
Probably. I know. There's so much of that going on. And the average person doesn't know the difference, right? But now we're being told, as you're telling us, they have samples. This whole time, but I got to tell you, I was looking through evidence for Rendlesham. When I do videos like this on my channel, I research them ahead of time to make sure I have dates correct. It takes a while to make a YouTube video. Not everyone knows this. You have to research dates and names. You want to be factual when you're just speaking, without a script. And I came across a guy who said you could hire him to speak to show why Rendlesham was nothing. And he could debunk every single point. I'm not going to mention his name because I forgot it. But he basically said, we now know that the indentations were little rabbit warrens. I guess 8-ton impressions were just rabbits digging. And he went on with each of the things, the lighthouse, and he tried to explain it. And for those of us that haven't actually been to Rendlesham or haven't seen physical evidence or weren't there, so you might be swayed by a little bit here and there. I mean, we've all made mistakes now and then. But now we're being told, I never doubted it, but I hadn't seen physical evidence. I encountered Peniston and Burroughs at the Citizen hearing, and I enjoyed it. listening to their testimony and subsequent other venues. But now we're being told there's actually metal samples. Now, did Elizondo did anyone say anything about what they learned from the sample, or is this is something to come forth in the next couple months?
From the information, they're going to release information that the metal elements come in concentrations that are not found naturally on Earth, and that are impurities that are not known and in combinations for manufacturing. So it's kind of the traditional thing. I don't have any information on whether they did any of that anti-gravity waveguide stuff on it, like they have the other pieces that have come out positive, or the extra solar sampling. But they probably have, even if they just got that mineral, stuff. But it's pretty, for those who like nuts and bolts, for those materialists out there who don't believe in this topic, the metal is, at first I was like, why on earth would the government let To the Stars have revolutionary material that hints at anti-gravity technology? Why would they do that? That stuff would be the highest national security value. If this stuff does half the stuff we believe it does, why on earth would they let To the Stars wave it around? Well, now I think we kind of know. I think that there's several different reasons. One is the government could use a third party to ask for all the material everyone has, because the government's getting the test results on all this stuff. They must, because of the national security interest.
It must be such a high level of priority. I mean, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh, to have weightless, hypersonic, completely invisible weapons is the ultimate. The fastest, most perceivable, most destructive. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. But
I were you going to show us a puppet there? What was that you were holding up there?
Yes, that was my little Vienna sausage.
Oh, it's
the hound. Yeah, it's the sausage girl.
What's your hound's name again?
Sausages.
What a cutie.
She's a good girl. She's a 14.
I bet everyone who has a dog out there is just kind of saying, what a cute dog.
She's looking at you. It's funny.
Hey, hi, sausage.
That gives me hope. How human beings can bond with other animals.
I have to give you a Halloween story that happened just a few minutes ago. We were putting up the decorations on the porch, and Susan, who you just saw come in a few minutes ago with the mask, she fell off the ladder while she was putting up the black light that illuminates the black light cobwebs where we put the spiders that glow in the black light. Well, I didn't know this. I was in another part of the house, and she fell the ladder. Everyone should be careful when you're putting up your decorations. You can't overestimate how dangerous it can be when you're on ladders and stuff. One of the legs had tiptoed off the porch, and she was now only on 3 legs on the ladder. It fell to the side and she fell backwards onto her coccyx bone. My mom said the dog ran into the kitchen. The dog was, because I had just said hi to Susan on the porch, how's it going? I moved away. The dog was looking at Susan. My mom said the dog ran into the kitchen with an anxious look on its face and literally pulled her back to the door. So do you see how important it is to have good relations with other species? This isn't just for fun, folks. We need to keep our relations with all the other animals and all the other species out there on the healthiest possible level, because you never know, just from a purely selfish point of view, when it's going to benefit you. And if we treat the ETs like this and we just cast them in this negative light without knowing it, we're going to lose friends that could be very important to us in the future. So I want everyone to be very careful before you make judgments. Some of the experiences people have with them don't always seem pleasant, but we simply don't always know what we need to find out what's going on first. Because we do this to animals around the planet, as you said before, and they may not like being anesthetized or tranquilized and having a blood sample taken, but we're doing it to try to find out what their migration patterns are so we can keep them around so they don't go extinct.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think we need to get all the facts before we pass any judgment whatsoever. I've had doctor examinations that I didn't like either, okay?
Yeah, and they could be being our best friend, literally. My dog is man's best friend, but they could be literally our best friend if we got past that fear. Yes, some people got bit by dogs. In fact, I got attacked by a dog when I was a kid and got 132 stitches back in my neck, foot, everything. a sheepdog that was our own dog. And I was in a van at night with my head on the, the back tire has the
Your own dog, wow.
Carpeted on this thing asleep. I thought the dog was licking my neck and it was biting me. And I looked like a sheepdog with blood all over its mouth.
Oh, the sheepdog. Oh my God, that carnivorous sheepdog. What precipitated such an attack?
They're one of the sweetest dogs in the world. And I'm like, I saw the blood and my fingers went into my neck and I'm banging on the big glass van window like, ah! And anyway, the dog was old. We had gotten it off the street in Vermont. It had burrs in it, had cleaned it out, everything. There was I didn't have like ham on my neck or anything. It just out of nowhere. I was asleep. I thought it was licking me. And I don't hate dogs because of that even. And, we need to judge, gosh, the stuff we could learn. Yes, we can learn from the crashes, which seem to be intentional to me. There's so many crashes. I think there's several reasons why there's so many crashes. We could get into that. That's interesting. But I think there's so much more we could learn from communicating. Some of the biggest questions we'd ever want to know. And I think they're going to slowly feed it to us. They're not going to hit us with all the information at once. We'll build a slow relationship with them. And it's going to be soon. One way or another. It's happening already.
No, I don't see any way out of it at this point. It's going to happen. And it's important that we go into it with the most open-minded sort of objectivity and honesty. Right? If there is something negative about this, people feel there needs to be defense. I'm open to that possibility, but give me evidence. Show me that this is true and not just a product of your imagination. Right? Because we have seen that so much on films and sci-fi that I really doubt it's true. If it was true, we wouldn't have seen it for decades in sci-fi films. That is just us projecting our own fear and negativity onto other people.
You were talking...
I mean, we've been doing it for hundreds of years. It creates wars. It creates misery. And it all turns out to be superstition in the end. At least for humans, we're all pretty much the same. We all have pretty much the same red blood. We can give transfusions to each other regardless of your ethnicity, right? And we create these barriers and the negativity. And I feel that it's our own emotional baggage that we have to process. And isn't it easier to blame other people than to take responsibility for something that's caused?
So true. And it's an evolutionary thing, I think, in human beings. That's, to protect your group by being scared of the surroundings. That's how we stayed safe from animals and the wild and other tribes and other groups, is we take care of our groups and we don't like them. And But we're evolving now. The society and technology and all these different things are breaking down these barriers. And we're evolving in some good ways, some bad ways, but we're definitely heading a certain direction. And that direction is greater connectivity, greater information sharing, greater all of those things that we never had in the past. And the responsibility of that, the responsibility of having that great connection and everything, I think is one for peace, not for, more selfishness. I think it's one for more communication and one more group cooperation and more able to do wonderful things for the future instead of everyone doing individual things for themselves for the now. We've got a lot to learn. I was joking the other day that once communication starts, real communication, this will be after we know there's, lots of different life forms in the universe and the Drake equation's wildly underestimated, all that stuff. I think we'll have in every newscast, and like in the alien news today, there's, a treaty was signed whereby the U.S. Will stand down all of their nuclear weapons in exchange for medical information, or not the U.S. It would be global, I think. But I think it'll be such an ongoing story,
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of right there, buddy. Let's say these visitors can say, look, guys, we know you've been afraid of each other since the Cold War and before. How about if we guarantee that we're going to neutralize all your atomic weaponry? And we'll prove it to you. Somehow, would you agree to get rid of them if we could do this? It's a good hypothetical question. I mean, that's a very interesting thought experiment, right?
If we globally gave up all of our nuclear weapons, they could give us some life-saving medical technology.
Yeah, in exchange for something else, and in exchange for something big, right?
Like a parent says to their child, if you mow the lawn, for 3 weeks in a row, I'll give you this Xbox or whatever. And I think that this advanced technology is not going to be throwing advanced technology down our throats. You know what I mean?
No.
How have we treated new tribes or, groups that have never seen us before, on islands in different places? What is that? The cargo islands, the cargo cult,
The cargo cults, the cargo cults.
So, and I was thinking about this the other day, we're not going to lose one day of the stock market if the president came out and said there's extraterrestrial life visiting us, not just out in the universe, but visiting us.
And they're willing to share medical technology.
Right.
And maybe the big medical industries wouldn't like that. I read this very interesting article about a guy that worked for them in their PR department and the types of disinformation they create to keep universal Medicare from being implemented. He called it FUD campaigns, fear, distortion, and they used it for, it was basically create as much disinformation as you can. Doubt, fear, doubt, and what you get the idea. It's like the cigarette industry. You said the big insurance companies, medical insurance companies in our country, and the HMOs have a vested interest in preventing universal health care. So they always overestimate the costs and they make things more dramatic than they are because they say you need us because we can't, and it'd be too expensive. But this is what you're up against. Basically, it's what Thorsten Veblen, the sociologist, the Norwegian sociologist that taught here in the U.S. About 100 years ago, and he called it vested interests. The people have been knowing about this for a while, but this is not new. The vested Veblen made a very interesting argument, is that he said there's a big portion of the society that gets up every day and works and wants things to work as well as possible. But the people that control the money supply have a vested interest in you staying with their products, so they deliberately sabotage their own products so that you need to keep coming back to them, repair them, to get updates and upgrades. I couldn't believe Veblen came up with this 100 years ago. It sounds just like what we're living in, that the engineers basically want efficiency and want things to work. And the owners don't want it to work because they make a bigger profit when things don't work.
What is that thing called? Is it planned obsolescence or whatever? When a company designs
planned obsolescence and more, because they have to deliberately make things work less well. Otherwise, they can't introduce new products, and they would lose too much money if we all had free energy, for example. If
what the beauty is, though? The beauty is, and this is also the things that the governments fear the most, is that ultimately, the power is in the people's hands. And if you piss the people off enough, if you cross one line too far, people can be mobilized.
They can.
He has shown time and time again, if the cause is big enough, no one is going to shut down Wall Street when this comes out. It's not going to start a single war. No religion is going to be destroyed. When you really think about it, the reason why War of the Worlds was so horrific back then and had those incidents is because it was an attack on the planet and people were supposedly dying and people believe that. If it was a peaceful, communication, we got a signal, we don't understand what it is, but our best scientists are trying to figure it out. We'll let you know as soon as we know the biggest information humanity has ever heard. And the message could be something like, with peace. They obviously speak our language. They know exactly how to speak every language on Earth by this point. Obviously, their technology. If our computers can speak every language, theirs certainly can. Hopefully we'll be able to start this slow relationship and allow humanity a chance to reflect on all these issues. It's not going to be crammed down our throats all at once. It's nothing to fear. Just like an animal in the rainforest we've never met before. No need to worship it or fear it. Just understand it.
Well, let me ask you this, buddy. When we all get to be on Star Trek, are you going to play Spock?
Oh, hell yeah. With these daddy-os? I am in the running for a Ferengi.
There you go.
Is it
You're
Ferengi?
Borg. You are definitely look like there. I understand the resemblance. I understand. Yes. Whoa, Ferengi. Folks, I didn't know we were talking to an ET on the show. Buddy has been
right now. ET is here, and I want
Ferengi.
ET wants cash. I can also be the ones with the veins in the head from the early Star Trek episodes.
I see. Yes, the early.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, on the side, have you seen any of the new episodes? There's a new Star Trek out. Have you?
I want to.
Yeah, I haven't. I think it's only online or something. I don't watch a lot of TV, so I don't know. If anyone knows, Phil, you can let us know in the comment section below. I saw a little ad for this. I mean, I love Star Trek as a kid. I mean, that introduced me to this. I'm talking, buddy, he's a 6-year-old, where this is important for kids. Think how our impressions of the world are formed, of the universe, by shows like that, and it made me curious. It made me feel there was something exciting.
Yep. It made me see past color, race. None of that stuff mattered.
Yeah, it showed that we can all work together for a bigger goal. And guys, let's point something out. It's a freaking big universe out there. Really big. And we can all be exploring it together. I doubt we're going to run out of space out there.
And you know what?
Created faster than we can even see it from a telescope. From inflation, it's still going on.
And how wonderful is that for a species that loves to explore, that makes a discovery and then doesn't even appreciate it, wants a further distance, wants to reach a higher goal, a higher benchmark. I mean, the universe is built for exploring and exciting.
It's built for us. And some channels have said we're the explorer race. It's our destiny to explore and to go out there and make new friends. Yeah. And if they don't want to be friends, fine, but just leave us alone. Yeah.
And I think we'll make it better for
them and discovering new things. How much fun would that be? How good would that be for the economy?
Right.
We could go to asteroid belts and other solar systems.
What if we even get past an economy where we don't even have to struggle individually for money, where we have to struggle for grander goals as a species?
Grander goals and grander achievements. Wouldn't it be great every day if we could all wake up and just focus on the achievements that we're going to? Buddy, I know how much work you put into your research and the passion you have for doing this.
Yeah.
Everybody should have that sort of, don't you think it's kind of a gift every day to wake up with this focus and this drive and no, maybe today I'm going to find out that fact I've been looking for a year, a piece of metal from Rendlesham Forest. I never in my wildest imagination dreamed that there was metal from there.
There's also Ubatuba piece. There's a bunch of pieces.
There's pieces, and how about we start sharing this with kids at museums, and we could have government scientists come into the museum and say, "Hey, kids, this is a real piece of a UFO.
Touch this. It's from another species we've never even met before."
How many neurons would instantly connect in thousands of kids? You know, we complain about educational standards and lower achievement scores. How good it would be for kids' brains to touch a piece of a real UFO? Because I'm talking about neuronal connection. I'm not being a zombie here. We're talking about mental development from curiosity and imagination and
inspiration.
Aspiration. Yeah. What happened to all of that, buddy? Because when I was a kid growing up here in New York in the 70s, we had all of that. We had those big dreams, and we had Star Trek.
Well, you had
bigger and better things were coming. Go ahead.
You had a lot of things supporting you, though. You had a space mission. You had all these cultural things. Nowadays, it's more social media. It's more myself. We're getting more technologically selfish as opposed to looking out further. We're looking, inward, which is fine. But if you're just looking at your image and not the substance, humanity has a lot of growing up to do, and I think really fast.
Well, can I just share something with you about that? Is the noise too much on this side, by the way? I hear some leaf blowers out there. I
don't hear anything on this side.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay. So here's what I think is one scenario that's going to happen. I did put up this video about fractal flattening a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to have a little follow-up from that. I know some people really loved it, and some were a little confused by it, but basically,
I loved it.
As you control systems more and more, things get less predictable. Let me put it that way in a nutshell. It just comes out of chaos theory. As you try to control at smaller and smaller levels, you get unexpected discontinuities at the grander level. It's just the way the dynamics of living systems work. You can keep whacking the moles down, but they pop up. That's just chaos theory, okay? Kind of. So here's what I think could happen because we all are connected with these devices, and Apple and other manufacturers keep coming out with better and better phones that keep us more and more in touch. Whether you're an Android or an Apple user, your device has gotten more complex over the last 10 years. Am I right? It does more. It allows you to FaceTime and connect instantly with your loved ones. And okay, so buddy, what do you think is going to happen when we have one day comes along incontrovertible evidence of extraterrestrial craft in our atmosphere or on the ground And there's video evidence from all of these cell phones simultaneously and the media. And everyone, like I see in Manhattan, walking around staring at their phone, is going to see an alien face pop out of their phone. And it's going to be a lot scarier than your alien face. Or maybe it won't be. It'll just, what do you think the social impact that? Because as I mentioned in my previous video, it used to take 2 weeks for news to get across the country. And now, instantly, all of this myopia of this selfies and it's going to focus on something that no one has ever seen before. How do you think people are going to react to this?
You know, you may think I'm crazy for what I'm about to say, but do you remember last year it was the blue dress or is it a yellow dress? That video that was out and people were like, look at this dress, is it blue or yellow? And it got crazy viral numbers. It was talked about on newscasts and all that stuff. I think it'll be shocking and wildly, shocking, neat at first that is confirmed. But I think humanity is so, we're unquenchable. We can't, we just keep going. So we'll hear about it and just keep going on. Everyone's still has to pay their bills. They still have to do everything. Stock market won't lose a day. There won't be any religious wars. There won't be any wars caused over it. There will be brown nosers, people saying, oh, I'm the ultimate ET expert. There's going to be people selling.
Yes, it's me.
Sure. Metamaterial hairspray that keeps your hair perfectly anti-gravity. There's going to be all that, bullshit. But I think society's going to do incredibly well the second that information comes out. We're going to do this vast improvement. Nothing horrible is going to happen from it. Nothing. All good in my book.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, it could actually go so much better than we've been led to believe, and the reasons that governments may have had for withholding the information, if that's what the real reason is. We really don't know what the exact reason is, why it's so secret. I mean, maybe it's whatever. Maybe it's what the TTSA people are telling us, that it's a Sputnik moment. We don't want to have another Sputnik moment because it would be an embarrassment to our national ego for someone else to get ahead of us. Listen, I would love for us to develop this here in the United States first, buddy. I would, as much as anyone, but we can't do it with secrecy. You guys, they have to go one way or the other.
If
we want to be the top dog society technologically, whoever has these materials needs to go to every museum right now and share them with every kid so that the brain cells start working again. You can't have it both ways. If you do want to keep it secret, and I understand the motivations, having talked to people from the government who've worked in these branches of the government that are involved in keeping secrets, I understand they feel that they have a need for secrecy at every possible level. But then the long-term cost for society is some other society is going to get ahead of us. So you can't have it both ways. You either have to share it or you don't share it. We're running the risk. This is, by the way, what Hal Puthoff told us at SSE, is that the reason the United States got ahead of the Soviet Union in the 1950s in electronics, even though they both started in the same place with vacuum tubes, is because in the U.S. things are shared openly between companies. And in the USSR in the 1950s, I mean, Stalin didn't pass on until 1953. So think how much was being shared there? Like nothing, because everyone's afraid for their lives. So you can't have it both ways. Okay, an end of editorial.
No, but that's an important point. And Luis Elizondo, in a previous speech, spoke about how important South America is to this. And someone posed a question, how important is South America into this question of advanced aerial vehicles? And he said, took a pause for a moment and said ominously, crucial, or some word like that. It was a very intense word, integral or crucial or something like that. And we know that there's several governments down there, Venezuela and Peru, who've already officialized this. It's a very open government programs for it. In fact, there's the secret programs that I've spoken about on my channel before, and other witnesses who have come out, so I'm not going to be assassinated for it. But there is a secret government program with the U.S., and apparently Russia used to be involved in it. It was an international program, like we're talking about. It's such a big thing.
Really? It was.
Russia was apparently involved in it for a while. And another witness who speaks about it, who I just saw an incredible video about him speaking about it, said the Chinese were also involved, apparently. And it's between the department.
Wait a minute. You are really filling in something really big for me now. You're filling in something very big. I will just mention in Black Swan Ghosts, I had a witness, Peter. Peter from the UK, Peter Leather. If you read that chapter, he has this sighting with a friend at night walking over the downs near Surrey, and this object lands and a bean gets out. And his friend is so panicked that Peter starts to get afraid. The bean walks back in the ship, shuts, takes off, speed of light, he sits back to the horizon. But he wanted to meet this fellow because he had some sightings as a kid. And he said, oh, they're finally here to take me up in the ship. He had sightings, he wasn't afraid. Well, the consequence was a couple days later, he's invited to a UFO meeting in a pub. And when he gets there and he goes down, they got pub owner says, oh, they're down in the cellar. There's a bunch of guys in the cellar. He opens it up. He said they were wearing uniforms that he couldn't identify, military uniforms, actually almost like doctor's uniforms. I think, excuse me, let me correct that. I think he said they were almost wearing like smocks, like a doctor. And he said every nationality was there. He said it was like the UN. He said every nationality was represented there. And I was wondering, what organization did he encounter? So by you telling me this right now, that there was an organization, and it had fills in. This is in the 70s, but that fills in a little piece of information.
This operation was in the late, I think, initiated in the late 80s.
Okay, so this has been 10 years. Anyway, go ahead.
More than 10 years. It's way more than 10 years old. That the Chinese were involved. So our two biggest supposed adversaries, the Chinese and the Russians, were involved in the area. And essentially what they had done was create, the only way to really describe it is like a UFO trap. Because the UFOs go from the coast across Peru and into the rainforest. There is like a highway. They're going into the rainforest and I bet getting biological samples to try and save this biosphere. And they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they kept tracking them. So the U.S. placed some radar facilities along the border. Blink, 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 blink. And then here's where it gets really fucking nutty, is they placed laser sights in between the radar sites. And I'm not the only one speaking about this. There's other witnesses. There's a guy named Wygand, I believe, who's on a Dr. Greer video. And he's an incredibly, impeccably believable witness. And everything he says, it matches the information that I have.
Oh, right. I remember. Yes, I remember him.
Radar site, laser, radar site.
He mentioned Peru. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And they've captured more than one craft there. They've shot down or captured or whatever.
About it. And that's what he was talking about?
More than one craft.
It was that guy that worked in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, for a naval facility, and he talked about them tracking them, and he mentioned Peru. It's one of the disclosure witnesses. People who haven't seen this should just look on YouTube. It's all there. But yes. So this is interesting. So they were setting up a trap?
They're setting up a trap along the border. Essentially, the border goes, it just basically forms an L of an L of radar, laser, radar, laser, radar, laser. And it also borders Bolivia, I think, is on the bottom of Peru. It's really stunning because he also mentioned the Chinese and the Russian and the Department of Energy, and I have all of that same corroborating information.
Working together to attempt to get the craft and find out who's inside and how they work.
I think they have an international UFO semi-agreement with nations, and they're supposed to information share, and they were up to a point. I heard a separate rumor that Russia was kind of separated from this at some point. And it's pretty stunning fucking information. There's a lot of stuff that's in that gray area. You and I like to focus very much on the science side. Is it evidence or is it an anecdote?
Right.
There's a big difference.
Guilty as charged.
And I want to know evidence, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's outside of my own framed illusion. I'd rather have the truth than something comfortable. And so many people want, what's comfortable. But this information is real. And I think if the U.S. citizens found out that we were shooting down conceivably living craft, killing conceivably living creatures, killing our neighbors, the consequences of that, it's so bad that I don't even think the general public should hear about it. You know what I mean? Because I think all of the intelligence agencies, everyone needs to be given amnesty over this UFO issue.
We need to find out what's going on with this. It's just not acceptable anymore. And
give everyone amnesty, and then the information will come out, right?
Yeah. You know, you're reminding me of something I saw at the Laughlin UFO Congress when Bob Brown was running it years ago, early 2000s. There was a researcher there from Chile who showed us what he said this is government video. Okay, this is the high definition Air Force cameras of what they believe to be humanoids dropping down out of ships. And he showed us the video of these humanoids. I can't say I could identify what they were, who they were. Big, 9 feet tall, perhaps. And they would come down in these little pods, and you could see the bodies just in this thing. And it wouldn't come down all the way. They would drift out off to the ocean.
How fucking cool is that?
And these were big guys. I don't know, guys. They were big entities coming down, and this is the Chilean government. This is very important what you're saying, buddy. I mean, we could do a whole nother show about this, and we will.
I've got more information on Chile.
Governments sharing information with their citizens, and they were at the citizen hearing, buddy. We had the South American contingent, and they said they held conferences for the public where they shared their best material. Wow. Oh, my God. They shared their best material. They didn't want people to be afraid. They even had, I believe, the general from, the colonel from Uruguay. He gave me his card. I'm at the hotel later on. I talked to him. And they said that they held events for school children to show them the pictures and what. And they said, we don't know what this are. We don't think it's threatening, but we just think you should know what we're capturing. This is a responsible government that is informing its citizens. We consider ourselves to be democratic. How about that? They go into schools. You
know how you solve a mystery? Present it to kids, and they will solve it. They will solve it. You know, that's how science works. How many science mysteries have been taught in a class? It's a mystery. We don't know, kid. And that
you have had kids around the world solve very challenging math equations and all sorts of things that other people couldn't solve.
And they grow up to become the people who are obsessed with that. You know, how many great scientists who made major discoveries speak of a childhood influence on them? And
I know.
This is a mystery.
That's what bugs me the most about this, buddy. If I could say one thing that bugs me the most is that this hasn't been shared with children in a way that would inspire their imagination, intelligence, and creativity. Okay? Because there's a time when you're a kid where you really get excited about life. And it lasts for the rest of your life if it's allowed to develop properly, right?
Yeah.
And then you get all sorts of very interesting, fascinating, productive people from that who are really following their passion. But I feel we missed it with this because this has been so suppressed. When I talk to kids about this, or even younger people, they go, wow. When people ask me what I do, and I tell them this is one of the things that I do, I'm like studying other phenomena, but UFOs are part of it. That's cool. That's the reaction you get nowadays. They're starved for the information. I'm telling you, they're starved. They're starved. The younger people are starved. They know it's real. They're not dumb. But no one's talking. No one's talking. I mean, we do have people on YouTube.
They're less scared than the adults are. They've got less things polarizing them against it. They've probably got 10 times more excitement about it than us adults. You bring up such a crucial point, is inspiring and uplifting our kids to, solve the problems of the future that we've created. And you can't do that by not inspiring them. Inspire them with huge goals, with mysteries, with excitement, with, enigmas.
What's wrong with us? Why aren't we doing that? We have the ability. Buddy, I grew up in Manhattan, and I used to spend every weekend in the Museum of Natural History. Okay? I still remember the dioramas of the dinosaurs. I can remember it now as a 3-year-old, seeing these dioramas of the big,
Yeah, they're still there, the dioramas, the same time.
The Brontosaurus doesn't exist anymore. Do you know that was taken out of the compendium of animals? There was no real Brontosaurus. It was two animals. Yeah. There was an animal with a long neck, but they put two skeletons together. So the Brontosaurus has been deleted from my. I like the Brontosaurus.
That was the biggest, coolest one when I was a kid. It was the biggest one.
And they had the huge insects that were bigger than you, just out of paper mache and plastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important for children to be around this. And we're being very selfish by not sharing this with them. I think when they grow up, they're going to say, hey, those adults weren't telling me the truth. It's like East Germany.
Yeah, and they destroyed our environment. Why is there radiation everywhere? How come I can't catch a fish out of any river that doesn't have some sort of toxin in it? My grandparents were assholes. They were so selfish. All those endangered species, I would have loved to have seen a spotted leopard or a vaquita or this certain type of owl. What a bunch of, greedy bastards.
Yes, it's really hard to find all these species disappearing. That the Chinese Yangtze river porpoise, they haven't found one in quite a while. I mean, it's really sad to just have a species that disappeared because we were careless and we didn't seal that pipe that was just polluting their environment. Or can't we design nets that don't catch the little cute Mexican porpoises? Have you seen those little guys? They can't get captivity. This is the thing. They don't like being taken out. They took one out and it died because it was so shocked. And there, how many are left now? 30?
Less than 30, they say. Less than 30.
And what's wrong with us? And we can't mobilize. Okay, here's one really good use of drones is for poaching in Africa. This is what I like to hear, is that they're setting up these drones and it's working to protect the elephants and the rhinos from the.
Yeah, they're also using them to find tortoise and turtle shells. I mean,
this is good. And hey, buddy, if we had the UFO technology in the drones, those drones could stay up all the time protecting the rhinos and the elephants 24/7. They never have to land.
Yeah, tracking.
We could end to this poaching overnight.
Yep. It's amazing. I think we need ET to be a mirror for us to look at ourselves. Things are so disastrous now on the planet. A mass extinction is happening right now. The convergence of all of these eschatological possibilities are real. And as time passes, they grow in probability. And we need a big, humanity doesn't change unless it's either shock or pain. And hopefully we can, by the shock of ET, do some reflecting as opposed to the pain of when the biosphere starts collapsing more and hundreds of thousands suffer and die. Hopefully we're wise enough to see the future coming and protect those people. Or we can protect ourselves now and just worry about me and my space.
Very well said. Buddy, on that note, I think we covered a lot of really important material today. Thank you for bringing up Rendlesham and all those other cases. The Peru UFO trap. We're going to have to talk about this more. I have never heard about that except from innuendo from the disclosure witnesses. But I think it's a good time, and we want to wish everyone. Is there anything else you want to say, buddy, before we?
No,
close?
Just really quickly. Take care of each other. Love each other. That's all.
And have a fun time. Remember, folks, it doesn't come to you, it comes from you. Big one.
Wonderfully put. Wonderfully put.
It's nice to have a nice, fun, scary night out there. So, hey, buddy, thanks again for doing this, and we will be in touch with you soon again. Okay?
Much love to everyone. Such a pleasure as always, Dr. Hein.